To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's
puertas.
a wild ride in the woods.
When invisibility doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, I have my lovely wife here, Kristin, to talk about Topolino's Terrace. How are we doing, Kristin?
We are doing great.
That's good to hear. So Kristin and I went to Topolino's Terrace on our most recent trip, and it kind of came out of nowhere. We weren't exactly planning on going here, and it's an interesting story about how we were in the parks, and we were at Epcot, and we got a text from our parents, and they said that they were flying in. Their plane was going to get in at was it 8 o'clock that they were going to land?
Maybe 8:30 or so.
Yeah. And this was our last day, our last Disney day. We flew out the next day, really early in the morning. And so I think it was you, Kristin, who said, we're going to be tired anyways, so we might as well do it.
Well, your parents, they were coming into Orlando and they wanted to get a drink. Mm-hmm. And so we park hopped to Epcot from Hollywood Studios that day. So we are currently in Epcot when your parents were like, let's get a drink. But we had to go back to Hollywood Studios where our rental car was parked. Mm-hmm. So we were like, where would be convenient that we want to go to that we could get a drink? And I started looking at the My Disney Experience app and happened to find a reservation for Topolino's Terrace for $9.25. Mm-hmm. And we were originally planning to just go and maybe sit and get a drink and appetizer, but it turned into a full dinner.
A full dinner, yeah. And it was funny because we had this reservation for $9.25. And that's kind of how it was. As my parents were saying, "Oh, do you want to get drinks?" And we were thinking "Oh yeah, what would be a cool place to get drinks?" And we thought about the Riviera, and they have Topolino. So we actually went on. This was later in the day too. We went on to My Disney Experience, and we actually found a reservation for Topolino's. Now, to be completely honest, I have never really done any looking into Topolino's. It's something that I've known about, but I haven't I didn't really know all that much about Topolino's Terrace. So for me, I was oh, we'll just get a reservation and maybe you do drinks or something. I didn't know what exactly we were getting ourselves into. But it was funny because we went straight from Epcot to the Riviera. And so we used the Skyliner to do that. And we actually had people in our Skyliner Gondola who also had reservations at Topolino's Terrace. I'm pretty sure at 9:20 at the same time as us. So we were all kind of booking it to try to make these reservations. But yeah, I was surprised as to how fancy it was when we got in there.
Mm-hmm. I think that Topolino's is one of the highly sought after reservation that you can get. But for some reason we lucked out, maybe because now you can cancel the day of or a couple hours in advance. And also we were eating very late at night. So, yeah, I guess I just hear that people like going to Topolino's. Mm-hmm. It's just people hype it up, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what I've always heard too, but nobody ever really kind of when I got there and started to experience it, I would kind of put it up against kind of these other signature dining places. I mean, definitely not
California Grill.
Yeah, well, I would put it up against California Grill would blow it out of the water, but it was as elegant as something like that. It felt really elegant when we got there, which it was funny because we were dressed in our park clothes. So
Muppet attire.
Yeah, we were wearing Muppet things. Thankfully, our our parents saved the day because they showed up in like button-ups and stuff. So like at least they looked like they were supposed to be there, but we looked like we just got done at the parks. But
it's fine.
But another learning opportunity for people, like they didn't care. Like I actually mentioned something to the lady at the desk, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we made this reservation last minute. We were at Epcot all day," and she was like, "Oh, it's fine." Like, and she said like the typical like, we suggest that people wear like this type of attire, but it's not like 100% required. So don't feel bad if you're a little underdressed. If you're severely underdressed, maybe figure that out. But just a little underdressed, like you'll be fine.
We also like closed out that restaurant basically. Like I don't know if there were later reservation times past 9:30.
Yeah.
So there weren't many people there when we were there. The other thing though, so here we are on the Skyliner, like booking it to get to the Riviera. And you guys might not know, but the Skyliner is not my favorite mode of Disney transportation because I think it is terrifying. And we kept like stopping on our route from Epcot to the Riviera. And then we get out and we're like, fast walking to catch up with this other couple who said they weren't going to run, and they literally ran. But we could not find how to get to Topolino's in the Riviera, which like, I know it's meant to be like a smaller hotel, and like it's like one that we would like to stay at. Like we would one day hope to become DVC and like be able to stay at this beautiful hotel, but we could not find this restaurant to save our lives.
It was we weren't we like trying to follow like signs, and then the signs just kind of like trailed off, and it was just like elevators. And I was like, well, it's at the top. So we just got into an elevator and like went to the top, and there it was.
Yeah. Once we got to the right elevator, like you couldn't miss it then.
Yeah.
Like you just go to the top floor. But I really like that ambiance. I feel like every Disney hotel should be really tall and have a restaurant at the top.
Right. Yeah. That's always really cool. And I mean, it was late and it was kind of dark, and we didn't have actually our table was right next to a window. Yeah. But it was dark everywhere. So
well, you could see Spaceship Earth somewhere. I can't remember which direction, but like you could see stuff. But like also our reservation was past 9:30, so like past all the firework entertainment time. But hint, Polynesian DVC tower. Yeah. Put a restaurant, a little tiki room bar at the top.
Maybe that's where they're gonna put because they get rid of that whole area. Used to be the like luau. Like the luau place that they had. Maybe they'll put like a small luau at the top of that
inside. That doesn't make sense.
No, I can dream. But yeah, it was a lot of fun going there, and even being like underdressed and feeling kind of like out of place. It felt really fun and like really nice. And again, it like the feeling that I got when we were there was kind of like the California Grill like signature dining feeling,
where they like put a napkin in your lap. I don't think they had done that, but like I think that they specifically stood there and like waited for everyone to like sit down and handed you your menu. And
I think they asked us if we wanted that special bottled water. I think I remember looking at you when they had asked that, but we said just regular water.
Yeah, unless if it was included.
Yeah, which Topolino's is not a the way California Grill is. It's not a prefixed menu, so I don't think like something like that would have been included.
I think you could have done prefix though.
Oh, really?
Now I can't remember. In the menu on My Disney Experience seems different than that menu. I think that they just had it listed. I think you could get like a 3-course meal. It was just like $100.
Yeah. Well, that definitely feels like. I mean, I feel like Disney does that at like almost all their restaurants now, especially their like bigger restaurants.
I mean, maybe if we had been going there like just for dinner, but like we were in Epcot from 2:00 until 9:00, eating a huge list of our food and wine foods that I wanted to try. So we had just been eating a lot. That's why I was like, oh yeah, like we don't need to eat again. And then we got sucked in.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because like we got sat at a table. And like when we got there, I felt like, oh, this is way fancier than I thought it was going to be. And so I think then I felt like, okay, maybe we do have to order an actual dinner and we can't just be like, I'll have this drink.
Well, we all did get a drink. Mm-hmm. I think your mom and I both got a wine, and then your dad and you both got a drink. Did you get a drink?
I thought I got it. I can't remember now. It was probably like a Manhattan or an old fashioned, something in that vein, because that's kind of like my go-to.
I think I asked the waitress for a Moscato, and she brought me something that was delicious.
Yeah. But yeah, so getting into like the meal itself, what did you say that my mom ordered as an appetizer?
Your mom had the gnocchi, which, I mean, they paid for the dinner, so, and I didn't want to like eat a ton because, we were eating all day. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, something that I really wanted to try would have been the ratatouille because,
oh yeah,
why not? Like Riviera ratatouille, it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. So maybe the next time we go, I would try that. But your mom had the gnocchi, and then your dad, I think it was a special. He had gotten like a roasted red pepper soup or something that had a little kick, and it had this cute little like crostini on it, didn't it? That it was like, he was like, this looks so pretty. Like, I don't even think this is supposed to be eaten.
Yeah. Yeah, and those were all really good. I think we were able to like taste like each one. Like I think my dad gave me some of his soup, and it did have like a little bit of a kick to it, which I think both of us liked. And then having some of that gnocchi. The gnocchi I remember being very tender, and I think that's the idea.
Well, the gnocchi is like, remember, it's like a puffy potato.
Oh yeah.
But it had like lamb shoulder in it, so it had like little bits of meat in it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was good. I remember, and that definitely, like you said, wouldn't have been something that I would have ordered myself. So I'm glad that my mom actually ordered that. And then for our main courses, and it's funny, we had all this food, and I was sitting there kind of like, how am I gonna eat this? Because we just ate at Epcot pretty much like all day. But then so I ended up having the filet mignon. Which my dad and I both had the filet mignon.
And your mom. All three of you guys. I was the only oddball out.
And it was very good. And my thinking there was like filet mignon, like kind of a smaller cut of steak. But I have to say, like the main course was so good that like I finished everything. Like I just kept eating because it was so good.
Right. And it wasn't like it was a ton of food. Like, I feel like it was like the perfect, like, little dinner to have. And your parents kept saying too, so we live in Wisconsin, and they had just gone out for their anniversary dinner. They had gone to like one of the popular steakhouses in Madison, and they were like, oh, this steak is so much better than that, restaurant. Mm-hmm. So this Disney restaurant beat out a normal restaurant back home.
Yeah, and that restaurant, and I'm sure lots of Madison and Wisconsin people are listening, but Rare, that's the steakhouse that they went to, and they just kept saying, "Oh, this steak is so much better than Rare." So that's interesting. And Rare is a place that I've been wanting to go to because I like to think of myself as like a steak connoisseur. Like I like myself some steak. I'll try to make myself steak whenever I can, and I just love like going and finding really good steak. So I feel like that's pretty easy to do actually at Disney, especially if you're in the Epcot area, at Topolino's or at Le Cellier. And other places at Epcot. So that's really cool. But yeah, it was fun to hear them say that like the steak at Topolino's, which isn't like fully known for like their steak, was better than Rare. So I think we got to get them to Le Cellier and see what they think of that.
Didn't they say that the filet, though, was their most popular dish? Or was it a different one?
It might have been the filet.
I think they said the filet was their most, like, popular.
Well, there you go.
I was the oddball out, and I got the sea scallops. I think we came on here a couple months ago, back in February, and started this journey of me in scallops from Napa Rose at Disneyland. We had the most amazing singular scallop, I think, of my life.
Yes.
Yeah, just one. We had half of it each.
I tell people this. Actually, I think I told my parents this when we had this dinner. But Kristin has been trying to recreate this amazing scallop that she had at Napa Rose in Disneyland ever since she had it.
Yeah. So I am becoming a huge fan of scallops, and this dish at Topolino's was up there. Like it was no Napa Rose scallop, but I would 100% get it again. Like there were multiple scallops. And then there was like some vegetable puree. What else had come with it? Yours came with like vegetables, didn't it?
Yeah, mine came with
Like green
vegetables,
beans?
and I thought they were a little. I think they had like a sweet glaze on them or something like that.
Yeah, mine had risotto, spiced pepitas, and vegetable brodo. I have no idea what that is. I remember like some green, like pureed type thing, I believe.
Yeah.
It just, the presentation, like it looked great. It tasted amazing. It was like not too filling. It was just yummy. Like I really liked it. I was so happy that we got to go there.
I know it was, and that was the thing, is that we were not expecting this. This was an experience. A lot of times, so Kristin and I, when we want to do an experience at Disney, we will do research. Like we have already been researching Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party and Jollywood to know exactly how we want to experience these things. We did the same thing with things like Ohana and California Grill and all these other places that we went to. So this, I feel like this was interesting because it was an experience that we like weren't ready for going into. Like we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And I honestly think I was like I didn't even really know. Like I didn't know that this was going to be as fancy as it was. So I was completely blown away by what we did.
And I was kind of nervous for your parents too, because like what if it would have been bad, and then they were like, oh.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they would have done that. But I mean, and that's the thing too, is that like at Disney, there are very few places that you can go completely wrong at Disney. Yeah. But this is one place that went very right, and at least I just didn't know that that's what we were gonna do that night. Yeah. So it was a really great way to end the night, and it and like Kristin said, like we were gonna be tired the next day anyways. So like why not kind of like end the night out with go out with a bang like that. So definitely something that we didn't know that we were going to end up doing, but like a big standout in the trip that we just recently took.
So do you think it was more like fun and exciting, just like doing spur of the moment?
You know, that's a good question. And I think it can go both ways, because it's like when we went to California Grill, like I knew what we were getting into, and so I was like, yes, there's this, oh my gosh, like check this out. And so it's like I was already hyped up about it, whereas Topolino's was kind of like, oh wow, like look at this, like this is fancy, the food is so good, oh my goodness. So it was like, I don't know, I feel like it was a whirlwind, and maybe because of that I wasn't able to take things in as much, because I was just kind of like getting not thrown off, but just kind of like everything was getting thrown at me, where I was like, oh, it's actually this fancy, and like the food is good. So I feel like maybe if we went back next time, like I'd understand about like kind of how things went, and I'd be able to like appreciate things more. But I feel like, I mean, maybe I had more fun doing it this way because I wasn't like.
But okay, well, I guess because we like lucked out and we had like good food, because I'm just thinking of how I have had my California Grill meal planned now for weeks, and we won't be going for another couple of weeks. But like, I don't know, like it was like fun and exciting, but like also I feel like we lucked out, and if I would have had something that I didn't really like I probably would have been sad and wish I would have done more research. I don't know. I think it also would be cool to go back like during the day so that you can see like daylight ambiance outside of the restaurant.
That's one thing I've always liked about Riviera, is kind of like how everything looks around that resort. So I totally agree. I think going during the day and being able to have the views and not just kind of like, I don't know why I remember just like looking into blackness, because it was just kind of like where we were, or like where I was seated, but I feel like I just didn't really, there wasn't all that much to look at where I was seated, probably because everything was so dark. But
well, maybe we also like had our blinders on because we like felt out of place, because we were I was literally dressed like Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
And like we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and like or maybe we were just like distracted because we hadn't seen your parents in a while, and like it was like fun to chat with them, but you know, I feel like I didn't really pay that close of attention to like the bar area or like the rest of the restaurant. Like we were just kind of like by the window focusing on what we were going to order, and then we ate. And
yeah, it definitely the whole experience for us felt like a whirlwind. And for me, again, I was just so not like taken aback, but like surprised at like the level that this restaurant was. Like I definitely like I was thinking drinks. And we got there and it was like a full-on meal, and it was really good. And the ambiance was, I mean, I love Riviera in the first place, so just going there and going to the signature restaurant was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was definitely kind of a whirlwind doing the whole thing.
I think at the end of our meal, what did we say that they had brought us that little dessert? But they brought us a free little dessert. Maybe it was just because it was the end of the night. Do you remember this?
I know. Was it?
I think maybe because like it was your parents' like first time dining. Well, it was our first time dining there too. I don't know. Like there was some reason that the waitress brought us like a tiny little dessert.
Well, we do have to mention our waitress was awesome. And she was very, and I think this kind of like made it feel like California Grill, because our waitress was very kind of like chatty in like the same way that our waiter at California Grill was. That was one of the first things that I noticed. And then of course, my dad, being the Wisconsin man that he is, just struck up a conversation with our waitress towards the end of the meal. And like she was standing there for like a good 10-15 minutes just like conversing with my dad, talking about her kids and all of the things that she does at Disney and everything. And he was, I mean, typical Wisconsin guy, making a friend all of a sudden out of nowhere. That's just how my dad and most Wisconsinites are. But she was great. She talked the entire time. She was really cool. She was a very good waitress, just like with service and everything. But that was another thing that I noticed, that I feel like some of these signature dining experiences are just another level over these other experiences, where your whoever's waiting on you is very attentive for the things that you need, and kind of like they'll like strike up conversations, and they'll like actually converse with you rather than just like, oh, you want a refill? Okay, cool. And then just like bring your stuff back. I feel like that you get a lot of that from more of the signature dining than the other types of dining at Disney.
Yeah, I definitely got like California Grill like vibes.
For sure. Yeah, me too.
Because, you know, it's different than like, say we would have taken the parents to like Ohana. Like that is an amazing meal, but like would have been a different, like, I guess like experience on service and like what am I trying to say? Like the portrayal of your food, like the presentation. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it definitely was kind of on par with California Grill. But I would still put California Grill over.
Yeah.
Over
Definitely.
Topolino's. But we had a really great time at Topolino's. The food was really great. The experience that we had, both kind of like making the reservation, getting there, and being there, I feel was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think all in all, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely do want to go back.
Yeah.
And try it again. Kind of the same thing with things like Ohana and California Grill. It's good that we've been kind of like putting Topolino's in the ballpark with Ohana and California Grill.
Yeah. I think it's definitely one that we could like visit back and like within a year or like in a year's time. Like it was definitely a cool place to go. I think it was a good way to like kickstart your parents' vacation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were arriving and then we were supposed to be departing and then didn't really. But,
yes, and then we didn't actually depart. We were still there for like another 2 days.
yeah, I think that Topolino's like a little Riviera stay would for sure like mean you need to go to Topolino's. But,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
yeah. If we hadn't gone with them, I maybe would have tried to go on our next trip because we're staying at Pop Century, like on the Skyliner route. So, but we've already done it. So
Yeah. It's funny. It wasn't really on my radar of things to do, really. I knew about it, but I obviously didn't know how elegant and like how good it was. It's definitely on my radar now.
yeah, I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got for you guys tonight. But like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.